Welcome to LEXi 101, your jumpstart into trading TradeFormers strategies in a TradeStation environment. I'm Michael Horowitz. We're going to cover in 10-minute segments how to insert LEXi, the strategy, into a TradeStation chart in a TradeStation workspace. Go over some important TradeStation settings that impact how LEXi works, and go through the LEXi inputs and what they mean one by one. We need TradeStation for this. So here's TradeStation with a blank desktop and nothing else. We're going to insert a chart. Okay, here's a chart for spiders, the S&P ETF, and I've got my setup defaulted to get 88 days. I'm going to change that to 130 days. I'm sorry. I'm going to change that to 130 bars. I have a reason for doing that sort of peculiar setting. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and insert a strategy. And I have Insert Strategy button over here. And in my list of strategies, you'll see if you installed LEXi correctly, a strategy that starts with exclamation TF for TradeFormers. The exclamation points are to get it to the top of your list. And opening range, long entry and exit interaction, OR LEXi. We're going to insert that right into this chart. And the first thing you see when LEXi is in here is we have a trade here on the first bar of the day on the last trading day. So when LEXi by default has these settings, it's got about 30 different inputs. It's using closing price as the price to use for signals, and it's got live on startup equal to true, which means to have the strategy turned on, but it has everything else set to 0 or false or a blank string in the case of these two inputs. With these settings, you see, you get a trade on the first day, of real data after a few bars of filling in. There are a couple settings though that affect when you get the bar here that that you should be aware of going in, because it could cause some confusion. The first thing is, when you format a strategy, by default you get this maximum number of bars a study will reference number. If I were to make that 60 or even 51, let's try it for 60. If I were to make it 60, I no longer get my trade because I don't have enough bars back to fulfill what I need. If I were to then go into here and ask for another 10 days, I get my trade back. Now, often you want to have the fastest chart set up you can, and I've done some trial and error, and I've found out that with these settings, I can get away with 10 max bars back, and all I need is 130 days of data, 30 bars of data, actually 88 bars of data to get my signal. So all I have is 88 5-minute bars, max bars back, set to 10. Now if I go and set max bars back to 9, watch what happens. I get this error. Whenever you get what's called a runtime error, you'll get the TradeStation events log pop up on one of your screens. And the last one that happens will tell you, I tried to reference more bars than allowed by the current max bar setting. Whenever you see this error, you'll notice your trades have gone away here on your chart. And the other thing you'll notice is the status is now turned off on the strategy. To fix this problem when it occurs, you need to turn the strategy back on, go to Properties for All, and set this higher. Okay, I've by trial and error learned that threshold is 9. You may want to, by habit, stick with the default of 50, which doesn't always work. You may have to bump that up anyway. And as a matter of course, ask for at least 2 days of data, at least for this experiment. And then you'll have enough without having to remember that. But be aware that you may see that events log max bars back error, and you may have to change max bars back by going to Format Strategies, Properties for All, and usually you'll have to bump it up when you get that error. We also have to have enough days of data. Okay, we have 1 day back, but if I went to bars back, 88 is enough. Well, it's not enough with 50. We need 130 bars to get 50. 128 is not enough. Well, it is barely enough. 120 is not enough. Let's just make this a day so we don't have to worry about that. Okay, so I have a day of data. I have LEXi with only the minimal settings, and so now let's start with the inputs at the top. I can right click and go Format Strategies. I'll see LEXi there. Note in passing that I have these automation tabs. They are not turned on. We're doing backtesting today, which means we're using historical data and we're seeing what LEXi would have done in the past. When you have that, and we go into the inputs, okay, we have to also note under our tabs there we have 30 inputs that you could set to program LEXi to do what you want. Under calculations, you have this option, enable intrabar order generation and calculation on. That's always on for LEXi. It's a requirement for it. So that means that LEXi is going to want to process every tick when you're running in real time, and to simulate what would happen in real time, you're going to maybe need to turn backtesting resolution on. For now, we're not going to worry about that. When we go to inputs, our first input is price. Now, almost always you're going to use close for the price, but you could, if you wanted, enter a formula, close plus a cent. You can enter an alternative series, high, open, low, and it would use those values in backtesting for signal generation. This, whether you enter high, low, open, or close on a tick-by-tick basis, it's not going to matter when you're trading live because you're trading on a tick-by-tick basis. So, unless you have a reason, leave this as close. Okay, so we have that set to close. We also have live on startup set to true. If you were to change live on startup to false, our trade would go away. So you're not going to get a trade in backtesting unless you turn live on startup to true. So that's all you need to get a trade. The next thing you want to do is determine the share size. Now in backtesting, you want to change the settings here. So if I want to buy 500 instead, I just enter that as 500. During normal trading hours, you could set dollars to trade, but sometimes on off hours, like I'm recording now, that doesn't really work right. So let's stick with fixed shares, and let's make it 100 shares just for convenience in calculating. In live trading, you have the ability to override that with shares to buy. No matter if I enter a number for shares to buy, I'm going to override what's in the TradeStation settings. So if I put 101 here, it's going to look to buy exactly 101 shares. I alternatively could enter a dollar amount, $10,000 worth of stock to buy, and it will divide the closing price into that number and round to the nearest 10. So here it's buying 70 shares. Now note that when you have both the shares to buy and a cash allocated, it's going to use cash allocated and ignore the shares to buy. And we're going to end up buying 70 shares if you do the math.